Coaching. I'm a coach with Michael Jones Coaching, and also I'm with Rialto Academy, who is hosting the webinar today for Mr. Jones. And Mr. Jones is going to talk to us today about your why equals your win. I'll tell you a couple of housekeeping things before we get going. First of all, we will be recording the webinar today, and we will offer you a copy of the recording afterwards. It'll arrive to you from the GoTo meeting system. Also, we would love to hear any feedback that you have on the session. We're really intent on helping people with their mortgage careers, and to that extent, if you are, and if you can give us any feedback on the ways that we're helping you, we really like data and evidence-driven results, so we would appreciate any feedback that you have. We do have some upcoming events for Michael. We're not here to really sell tickets to you right now, yet we will make you aware of upcoming events where you could attend or inquire about coaching. We will let you know some of that information towards the end of our session today. Also, you're invited to ask questions. Go ahead and type them in, and I will present them to Mr. Jones. And we can ask questions as we go and also at the end of the session. Hi, those of you that just joined, we just started. Thank you for joining us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Michael Jones. Michael, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Les.
Fantastic. Why don't I turn it over to you, and everybody have a great time in the webinar, and Michael, let me know if I can help you. I'll be right here.
Perfect. I appreciate it, Les, and I appreciate all you do. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you being here. I know it's a Friday. I know we're starting to get a little bit later in the afternoon, and today is a big funding day for many of you. So for those that were able to step away and really work on yourself, I appreciate that, and I know it's going to be a rewarding experience for you. As Les mentioned, this is the first of several webinars that I'm going to put on that are a bit of an excerpt from my book, Reset, but they're all designed to deliver value to you as a loan officer and to help you change your thinking, become intentional about your life, and enable you to achieve both your personal and your career goals. So today we're going to focus on your why is equal to your win. And I am absolutely obsessed with this concept of discovering your why and really taking ownership of that concept. Today, we are, as a culture, obsessed with people succeeding. Social media is a big driver behind that, and so we're constantly seeing the results of money and power and things like that. But many of us know that either we are feeling hollow, or we know that those people who are successful feel hollow because they've achieved an outcome, but they haven't been able to build themselves up on the journey. And so discovering your why is an absolute necessity in order to be truly successful and truly happy with what you've got, especially as a loan officer, because we have so many challenges that we face every single day. It's critical that you own what your why is and live it out every single day. So what I want to really focus on today is a few methods as to how to discover your why, and also some things that will help you own that every single day. Without further ado, I'm going to just give a brief background as to who I am and just give you an understanding of where I'm coming from. I'm a mortgage executive and a coach here in the mortgage industry. I am currently a loan officer and have been a loan officer, and it was my experience as a loan officer that led me to write the book Reset, which you can see there. It's written in novel format, and it is an accumulation of some of the stories and frustrations that I had as an originator, and also in speaking with other originators as to the challenges that they face. And it captures a very pivotal point in my life, which was whenever I attended a Todd Duncan sales mastery event in California. Some of you may know who Todd Duncan is, but if you don't, Todd Duncan is an icon in the mortgage industry and is a sales executive who has coached mortgage originators for decades now as to how they can find their purpose and to conduct what he calls high trust sales interviews. Those are in the book Reset, and he's been a big impact on my life. And so one of the things that I took away from that was, what is my purpose and how am I to be fulfilled? I found originating a very fulfilling calling, but I had lost sight of why I became an originator. And so through attending that conference and through engaging in a miracle morning, which I'll talk about in just a little bit, I was able to dig down deep, discover my why, and that why ultimately led me into coaching. I can't tell you what charge I get working with loan officers who are frustrated or who can't hit those sales objectives that they want to hit to live an abundant lifestyle, and help them discover their why through some of the methods we're going to talk about today, and then offer them accountability so that they can achieve the sales goals that they want to hit as well. Tony Robbins talks a little bit about this, but he basically says that once we have fulfilled some of our basic needs, one of the greatest needs that we have is to give back. And so through my miracle mornings, through my own reset in my life, I've been able to identify that coaching and helping loan officers to achieve their goals is how I give back. And that gives me a lot of fulfillment and a lot of energy. One of the things that your why will do, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, is it will give you the energy that you need every single day to get out of bed and to achieve your goals, be highly intentional about your life. And without that kind of drive and energy and direction, you're going to find yourself just wandering about. And that can be very frustrating. And unfortunately, some people are never able to quit wandering, and they live lives that they ultimately regret. And I don't think anybody should have to live that way. And that, again, is why I became a coach and why I want to help as many people as I possibly can through the reset concepts. I'm going to read a poem that I found incredibly impactful about the time that I had my breakthrough. And if any of you have read The One Thing, this is one of the poems that's highly impactful to Gary Keller. And we'll talk a little bit more about him in a bit. But Gary Keller, as you can imagine, is one of the founders of Keller Williams. And because I'm in a room full of loan officers, I probably don't have to give you much background about him. But if you haven't read The One Thing, it is a very helpful book to help you discover the steps that you need to take to achieve your goals. And so this poem was written by Jesse B. Rittenhouse, and it's titled Life. And it says, I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have gladly paid. And I've got the poem up here, and I just want to hit that last stanza one last time because that was so impactful to me as I was going through my breakthrough and really digging for what my why was. It reads, I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have gladly paid. And I hope that that hits you and that you're able to internalize the importance of that, because when you sit back and embrace that you only have one opportunity to live an abundant life, and a loan officer allows you to achieve the income potential to do whatever it is that's your heart desire, to set your family up for success, you realize very quickly that if you state that you want to be a highly successful loan officer, you have the vehicle to accomplish your goals. So I hope that that you'll take some time to reflect on this. Again, I found it very impactful, and I actually have it framed up on my wall in my office, and I look at it from time to time to remind me that I'm never to take this life for granted, and I always have to ask for as much as I possibly can. So very impactful. The next idea I want to introduce is one of The Walking Dead. And I really found this to be fairly profound watching the show The Walking Dead. You learn throughout watching that show that, yes, the Walking Dead are zombies that are after the humans, but interestingly enough, the humans themselves are the Walking Dead, because as soon as they die, they reanimate and they are consumed with eating other human beings. And this point really struck me because I look around at folks in the mortgage business, in the real estate business, and just in life in general. And because they haven't found their why, they are constantly wandering around searching for some form of life that they can consume in order to feel re-energized, in order to feel that they have purpose. And unfortunately, this is found sometimes in addictions. This is found in unhealthy relationships. And I think if people were to just take a step back and decide that they are going to invest in themselves on a daily basis to discover their why, to discover what's going to give them energy every single day, they wouldn't wander around aimlessly. And it's very sad, and this is one of the goals that I have as a coach, is that nobody would feel like they're the walking dead. Nobody would wander around in their mortgage careers for years and years and years. And so I'm really hoping that through this and through the other webinars that we're going to look at, that you'll find your why and you'll find your source of energy. One of the reasons why we oftentimes feel that we're the walking dead is the negative talk that we give ourselves. I'm sure you felt this situation from time to time, but it can be a frustrating day. You can have any number of issues pop up on loan files. An appraisal could come in under where you need it to. A borrower's income may come in lower. You may get into a dispute with your underwriter. But all of these things can lead you to feel very negative about your situation, and you can talk down to yourself, and you can really limit your energy. And one of the things that we have to do every single day is to reset how we talk to ourselves and make sure that we're never allowing our negative self-talk to dampen the why that we have in our lives. In a future webinar, we're actually going to dive into that a little bit deeper, because I think that that connection is so vital to us as salespeople and as loan officers to make sure that we're not talking to ourselves in such a way that keeps us from recognizing and achieving our why. So I want to take a moment here, and this is an opportunity I want you guys to actually take out a piece of paper. I hope that you're sitting at a desk, and I want you to take just a few moments while I'm silent, and I want you to determine today, what is your why? And I would like for you to, once you've been able to write that down, to actually put it in the chat box, and I'd like to see a couple of those. But take just a moment and think about, what is your why? Why did you become a loan officer? What is it that you hope to achieve as a loan officer? What is it that you want to achieve in the future? And just take a moment, and we'll sit here silent, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of those responses. Okay, perfect. I'm seeing a couple come in. I'll give you guys just about another 15, 30 seconds to get those in. I would love to hear from you. For those of us who just joined us, we're writing down our why and sharing what that is. Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate those of you who responded. One of the ones that came through that I think is awesome, and I appreciate you offering that up, is that your why is that you want to achieve a level of income that you have financial security for your family, and you're able to provide college for your son and daughter. And I think that's awesome. That's what all of us want to be able to achieve, is a level of security for our family and the ability to achieve even more. Many times we think of our why as something esoteric and something that is very lofty. And because it can be very difficult to narrow down what is the driving force, we oftentimes abandon it, or we think we've discovered it only to find that it's very surface level, and that falls away whenever we face adversity, whenever we face hardship, and whenever we flat out just don't feel like going through some of the things that we have to do, such as calling realtors whenever we've been rejected 2 and 3 times, being able to pick up a loan file after it's been denied, and being able to pick it up, try to restructure it and submit it back in so that you can help that family purchase or refinance their home. But if you don't discover what your why is, you're never going to have the energy in your tank to complete the journey. And I really hope that this is a very fundamental concept for y'all, because when you face the challenges that we do in this industry, and really just life in general, you're going to need that energy and that driving force. And one of the ways that we'll discover here in a few minutes on the webinar to achieve that is by taking time in the morning and being highly intentional about building yourself up and getting clear as to your goals and documenting those things. So one of the things that we can oftentimes find our why in that is very temporary can be fame, power, or money, or influence. And these things may feel very fulfilling at the time, but we find that they don't often hold up whenever times get very tough. Fame is fleeting. We're oftentimes only as famous as the last time we were in the spotlight. Public opinion can change, and another one that we oftentimes think is very fulfilling is money. And for those of us that lived through the financial crisis, money is very fleeting and it is very fragile. And many people build up their self-worth and how they view other people based on the level of money that they have and what they can achieve. And they oftentimes lose themselves in the pursuit of money and ultimately find that later down the line, when their families are older, when their kids are out of the house, when their relationship with a husband or wife has fallen apart, that the money doesn't make those things better again. Power and influence are a bit of a side effect of this, and along these lines, Jim Carrey, of all people, has a very insightful quote that I wanted to share with you guys. It reads, "I wish that everyone could get rich and famous and do everything that would make them feel fulfilled so that they can see it's not the answer." And I found that to be so very profound, especially coming from Jim Carrey. For you, those of you that aren't familiar with Jim Carrey, he was in Dumb and Dumber. He's always the butt of the joke, and he's always clowning around. But he's also an individual who came from obscurity. He was a stand-up comedian for years before he finally made it big in the movie industry. And he told himself in the early 90s that he was going to obtain an income of $1 million by a certain date. And sure enough, he wrote himself a blank check. And in 1992, with the debut of Dumb and Dumber, or 1995, he was able to achieve that goal. And it's because he was intentional about what was important to him, and he put in the time and effort in order to get there. And that's very much a function of our why. Another big influence for me over the last few years, and particularly whenever I had my breakthrough moment out in California at the Todd Duncan Sales Mastery Conference, was Gary Keller's The One Thing. And if you haven't read that book again, or if you haven't read it again, I highly, highly recommend it, because at its very core, it talks about what is the one thing that you need to do in order that you can achieve your goals, and that things are unnecessary. And you can very quickly see that the root of your one thing is your why. If you don't know what your why is, everything else can become impossible after that. But if you are very clear on your why, everything else becomes easier and possible, and it's that driving force that gives you energy along the way. So I really highly encourage you to pick up that book if you haven't, and give it a read, because it has fundamentally changed the way that I've done business as a loan officer, and it can for you as well. The next concept I want to introduce to you is the miracle morning. And many people haven't heard of Hal Elrod in the miracle morning, so I want to take just a moment to introduce him and the concepts behind his powerful, powerful routine that quite literally changed my life. I know I've used that a few times, but the impact that the California seminar had for me was absolutely life-changing and radical. Hal Elrod was an individual who, in his college years, was driving on the highway from college one night, and he was struck head-on by a drunk driver going 60 miles an hour. It was an absolute catastrophe, totaled his car, blew it apart, and really badly damaged his body. And he spent months and months and months healing from that. But he survived, and he fought through it. And many people thought, wow, that must have been the hardest point in your life. Well, he disagrees. He says that the hardest point in his life was during the financial crisis in 07 and 08, when he lost his income. He was no longer able to produce income, which led to him going into foreclosure for his house. His life began to spiral out of control. His relationships were damaged. And really, he felt like he hit rock bottom. And he didn't know where to turn. He didn't know how to bring himself out of the funk and the darkness that he found himself in. And so he penned the Miracle Morning, which was the morning routine that he used to get very clear about his goals and his why and his purpose and how he could take steps every single day in order to make that happen. And this right here is the crux of what it takes to find your why. There are certainly certain morning rituals that you can do, and this is not the only one, but this is the one that I have found to be the most impactful, both for myself and other incredibly high achievers. For anybody that is familiar with the Keller Williams space, David Osborne, who's is a big owner within the Texas region, highly recommends the Miracle Morning and does it himself. And there are numerous other individuals who are achieving goals at the absolute top level that swear by these exercises. The Miracle Morning is broken down into a 1-hour exercise that has 6 different parts that take about 10 minutes each. And I'm going to quickly just read through these and give you some examples of what you can do starting tomorrow. And yes, I recommend that you start tomorrow with these, in addition to going and buying a copy of the Miracle Morning, because it is an absolutely powerful book. But he starts off with scribing. And scribing is just another word for journaling. And it's one of my favorite parts of the Miracle Morning, because not only does it allow me to get clear on my goals, because I'm actually writing them down, but it gives me something to review over time. So I started my journaling process back in 2014, and I can remember the very first entry that I wrote in my journal, and it was just 3 simple sentences, and it said, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm not happy with where I'm at right now, and I want to achieve more through this Miracle Morning thing. And I look back at that from time to time because I do like to flip through my journal, and it just really is amazing the journey I've come on through journaling. It also gives you time to really process through the thoughts and feelings that you have, and allows you to, again, reflect back on this and see what it is that you were struggling with at a point in time, and have you been able to make improvements, and if not, what can you do to really change that? So I'm a huge fan of journaling or scribing. The next one is affirmations, and I actually like to call those incantations, which is a word that Tony Robbins uses. And for those of us that are in mortgage, being able to build ourselves up on a daily basis so that we're prepared to go make those realtor calls with energy and really with determination and discipline so that we can build up our pipeline is absolutely critical. Incantations can often feel very awkward for people because essentially it's self-talk. You're puffing yourself up, you're making yourself feel good, but incantations are more powerful than affirmations because it's a full body experience. You're jumping around, you're beating your chest, you're using a loud voice, and these types of techniques are time tested and proven to ingrain within your psyche positive feelings. And it's absolutely critical that if you're stuck in a rut right now and you really want to turn things around and close and fund more loans than you ever have better relationships with your referral partners and your family and friends, affirmations are the key to getting your negative talk quieted down and to begin talking to yourself positively. Visualizations is an easy one. It's just like daydreaming, and it's often driven by the goals that you were just scribing about. So it's 10 minutes of looking at a vision board, of imagining the cabin in the woods that you want to live in, the vacations you want to take with your family, imagining your son or daughter graduating from the college of their choice with no debt because you've been able to support them. Those are the types of things that you're supposed to be focusing on during your visualizations because it adds realism to your why and to your goals. Exercising, I have taken this from a 10-minute exercise to about a 60 or 75-minute exercise. So my Miracle Morning is about 2 hours long, even though that's not the normal basic Miracle Morning. But I found that whenever I got up, and I get up every single morning at 5 a.m. Central Time, and I go and hit the gym, I am creating a mind and body connection that not only energizes me throughout the day, but it creates that mental toughness that I need to go and make sales calls, that I need to stick out a tough file, or to help my teammates around me be as productive and successful as they can. And it also gives me the energy that I need to coach other people because oftentimes they're leaning on me for strength. and I have to be strong enough to carry them through. Next up, we have reading. That's 10 minutes of reading. And for anybody that's followed Warren Buffett spends 4 to 5 hours a day reading. And he's arguably one of the smartest men in finance. And he credits this because he spends a large amount of time reading. And so you may not be interested in nonfiction, and you may not be interested in some of the other self-help books out there that can be very enriching. But you may even take this time to read guidelines if you don't feel like you have time during your day. Fannie Mae has been highly active this summer, as many of you know, and so taking some time to read those guidelines and the upcoming changes is a game changer for your business, because when you're the smartest guy in the room, it's very hard for you to lose a deal because you didn't know something. So I'm a huge fan of reading and staying on top of guidelines. And then finally, we have silence. And for many people, this is one of the hardest things to do, but silence and meditation allows for you to, again, quiet the noise, quiet the negative talking, and really explore and allow you to gain rest in your mind. And every time that I spend 10 minutes in guided meditation, I can't tell you the amount of energy that I come out of that with. And it's very difficult to really correctly convey that if nobody has experienced that themselves. And so, guys, this was just a quick overview of the Miracle Morning, but I hope I gave you enough information that you can go and have your first Miracle Morning tomorrow. And I highly recommend that you start immediately, because I never regret the mornings that I've woken up at 5, but I regret the years and years and years I went without being highly intentional about my day and really owning what was going to happen, both in my mind and just in the direction I took with my life, and fueling my why. So I want to pause for just a moment. I want to see if Les has had any questions that have come in and see if I can answer any of those for you guys.
Michael, we have, I invite everyone to send in questions. We have some comments. We don't really have questions yet. Yet this is a great time to formulate your questions, and let's get great answers from Mr. Jones. Having said that, Michael, I did want to share with you some of the really excellent why statements that were sent in. For instance, an example of one, I'll leave the names off of them. An example of one is time with my 3 young children, removal of money fears and limitations. Also, support financial success for myself and my borrowers, so about our fiduciary duty there as well. And then we have to make money and have secure future. My family depends on me. And Michael, I've heard you teach this point many times about how money is fantastic for fueling the things we intend to do in this world. You just can't let it, it doesn't suffice as a why, yet it's a fantastic part of the outcome that we get to choose our income as an outcome. We also have a great big why was described as to meet great people. That could be lifelong acquaintances. We also have help others obtain their home ownership, lifting and helping and serving others, and several other really great why statements. And so I wanted you to hear all of those, and everybody to hear the great examples that are coming out of the work that you're doing so far. If you have any other questions, oh, here comes a question, Mr. Jones. We have a question about the one thing Hal Elrod, Miracle Morning, and Todd Duncan. We really like these resources. Is there specific training available on those? Do you want to address that, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. And there definitely is. And I'll just kind of dissect those one by one. So the one thing has become a phenomenon in the business community, and there are a number of workshops that you guys can attend, both in person and I believe online. And I definitely recommend that you research those and actually attend those. And as a loan officer, being able to use the one thing to get clear as to what can you do in your daily activities and book of business to make your life easier. It could be that you need to take your 1003s better. It could be that you need to time block more effectively. It could be that you just need to spend your time more effectively. But being able to identify the one thing that you need to do in order to achieve your goals and take all the noise out of your life is absolutely critical. So highly recommend you look into attending one of those. Hal Elrod doesn't have any doesn't have any workshops or anything like that, but he does have two resources. One is the Facebook community, and I highly recommend you go look that up. It's just the Miracle Morning Group. And a second one is he has the Achieve Your Goals podcast, where he interviews top performers and also does a deep dive into the concepts in his book. And I listen to that every single week. I'll engage in the Miracle Morning community, and it is a fantastic resource. And then finally, Todd Duncan has a number of books that are available. I personally have read High Trust, the High Trust Interview and High Trust Selling. That is a great read if you haven't read it yet. And he also has his in-person event, Sales Mastery, which is an absolute treat. It was life-changing for me to attend, and I highly recommend that y'all look into that as well. It can be a bit of a commitment, but if you're serious about changing your life and serious about building your book of business, you have to attend. It's critical.
That's excellent, and I'll support some of that content with you as well, Michael. I'm also a certified One Thing trainer, and so to support what Michael was just telling you, that website is theonething.com, and that's with the numeral 1, theonething.com. And you can get access to online courses, time blocking courses, excellent podcasts. They share great. There's also a certification program, and you can get certified as a master in the One Thing. So they have some really great options over there. There's also a teleseminar series hosted by Gary Keller's company. Having said that, Michael, you also have workshops and coaching. Could you take a moment? We don't want to make this a sales pitch, yet we don't want to hide your workshops and coaching. So could you tell us a couple of things about, you have a workshop coming up in the Dallas area in August on the 11th, and you have some other dates that are about to be announced in Texas, yet you're also are coaching from Reset. So can you tell us just a little bit about how those programs go? And could you be specific? We just got a question as well about production increases. So when we commit to some of these things, are we seeing measurable production increases as well? And is that showing up in your training and your coaching? Could you address that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a number of webinars that are coming up, very similar to the one that we just had, but it will cover different content and looking to just take apart various aspects that I know every single loan officer is struggling with and to equip them. As you mentioned, Les, we've got the workshop that's coming up August 11th in Dallas, and that will be a 6-hour workshop that covers the concepts in the book Reset. But the first part will be for taking ownership of your day, some tools and activities that you can use to really right the ship, especially if you're stuck in a rut. And that may be if it's new loan officers to the business or even folks who are veterans and they just are frustrated with the way things are going. The next bit will be how to leverage tools and technology in terms of mining databases and getting sales appointments and making sure that you can have those high trust interviews. And then the final bit will be actual breaking apart the loan manufacturing process and discussing different techniques that can be used in different ways so that you can actually get your clients closed in 18 business days, which is it's very achievable, and it's just simply owning the file process. And so that's just a brief overview of what we'll cover. And then additionally, I have a little bit of coaching that we do. Always happy to speak to somebody if they're interested in having sessions. And personally, I have seen a 25% lift among the folks that I'm working with, and that's just right off the bat. Many folks experience both a work-life balance in addition to just having high-quality referral partners come onto the scene instead of really just hoping and praying that that next deal comes through, which is a very unsettling and frustrating place to be as a loan officer. For my personal production, I was able to go from about 6 to 7 units per month consistently up to 15 units per month after I attended the Sales Mastery event and really had my breakthrough of the Miracle Morning. So it's very powerful.
That's fantastic. And so when you describe a 25% growth curve in your coaching clients, I'm pretty sure you're referring to about the first quarter results. So like a 20. So there are. It sounds like you're describing a combination of long-term benefits and also immediate benefits from the training and coaching.
Correct. Yep, that's exactly right.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we have just a few more minutes here if anyone else wants to ask a question. We have one more question here. Is there an assessment? Yes, I'll answer that. What Mr. Jones was referring to, he'd be happy to talk to anybody interested in exploring a coaching or training path. We do have sometimes companies request that we bring a workshop directly to a company or a branch or a group. Other times it's in an area and tickets are available, like in the Dallas event, tickets are available for that one. And you guys will be notified about that in an email in case you want to follow through on and research any of that stuff. Yet, in terms of an assessment, that's what Michael does in his introductory call, is he helps to assess people's opportunity with coaching. Are they coachable? Can we see clearly what their issues are? And we can even calculate what kind of gap we're filling and what kind of benefits they're going to get. And so so that's the answer to the assessment question, is it happens in that introductory phone call. All right. Then we have one more question, Michael, here, which is, other than the miracle morning, what's the other thing that you would do immediately to feel more excited about your career?
Yeah, I'm such a believer in this quote, which is Jim Rohn's, and it's been used quite a bit. But we are all the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And outside of having a miracle morning, outside of having these routines to discover your why, the more time that you're spending with people that are achieving at the top level and who are living and leading a life of abundance, that rubs off on you, and that's incredibly inspirational. And so I've done this for some time now. In fact, I'm a member of a group called M1. That's not necessarily a solicitation, but that's just how intentional I decided to get, that I wanted to surround myself with people that were just determined to make the most out of this life. So that's the number one thing that you can do outside of a miracle morning.
Well, that's fantastic. Good advice. Turns out Mom was right. How about that?
That's right.
Well, all right. I'd like to, on behalf of our host, Rialto Academy, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Jones, for the webinar today. That's fantastic content. All of you on the call, appreciate your attendance as well. Thank you very much for being with us and giving us a chance to chip in on you having a fantastic career in the mortgage industry. We'd love to have any feedback that you have about your time with us. We would love to hear things that we helped you with, and also anything you can think of that strengthens the program. We're here to make things better in the mortgage industry with careers. Having said that, we have future webinars coming up. You'll be invited to those. There is one in a couple of weeks on another topic with Mr. Jones. And other than that, if you have any trouble finding the Miracle Morning in your area or finding links to any of the books that we referred to today, drop us a line and give us a chance to help you. We're happy to help, and we're glad to hear from you, and we'll give you the links for those things. Other than that, I think we're about to wrap it up. Do you have any parting words for us, Mr. Jones?
I think you did a great job, Les. I just really implore you guys to take this opportunity to use the weekend as things are kind of quieting down, to just get very intentional about trying to find out what your why is, because you'll have so much energy when you do that. And I just hope that you will take the time to really sit down and discover that.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. On behalf of Michael Jones Coaching and Rialto Academy, we sure appreciate a chance to contribute to your career. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next webinar.